On today's bonus Locked On Jayhawks, some changes, updates to the depth chart headed into week 3 against Nevada. A couple interesting ones, especially on the defensive side of the ball and at quarterback. We're getting into that on today's edition of Locked On Jayhawks.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Derek Johnson. You can hear me as well Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. on KLWN in Lawrence with Rock Chalk Sports Talk. You can hear me as well right here on Locked On Jayhawks, your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get any of your podcasts. And you can also find us where you can like and subscribe to our show on our YouTube page. On today's bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks, Lance Leipold met with the media earlier today, had some interesting stuff to share about Nevada, about the team, about some of the travel logistics they have to have, and also about, Devin Neal, Luke Grimm, Jalon Daniels being banged up a little bit, missing some practice, but also, I think being fine for the long term and for this week and everything, but certainly something to kind of monitor there. But, one of the biggest things that happened today was some of the updates to the depth chart for KU. There were a couple changes, a couple oars added, deleted, or maybe guys switched around here or there. Some of them more minor, some of them more major. We're talking about that on this episode, our bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks. Let's start with the more major ones. The first is at quarterback. Now, maybe this is more of a minor one that is just major because of the position and the players involved. The oar is gone at the quarterback position. So we went in week 1, which I get, maybe that's a bad thing. Week 1, the oar was not there. And it was Jalon Daniels above Jase Medical, and then Jase Medical ended up starting. So maybe the oar being gone, where it's now Jalon Daniels ahead of Jase Medical, maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe that's not great based on what happened in week 1, because week 2, there was an oar there with Jalon and Jase Medical, and it ended up being Jalon Daniels being the starter. And we didn't see Jase Medical in there at the quarterback position. So I don't think it really means much. It's more of the same. Like you just saw Jalon last week. You're expecting him to be the starter this week. Well, that's kind of indicative of that. So it's not that it's like a surprise or anything. It's just that it furthers that idea there. The two big ones I thought were on the defensive side of the football at the linebacker and safety position. I want to get into those in just a quick second here. First, this episode of the show is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company, our game changer of the week. I already talked about earlier the Luke Grimm catch from Jalon Daniels. How about even the just entire defensive line, 6 sacks? I mean, unbelievable defensive performance from KU, and that was a big game changer for KU as well. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, Sours, and more. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you. Buy online at athleticbrewingcompany.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON and get 15% off your first order online. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewingcompany.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Okay, so the two big ones, though, on the change of the depth chart on the defensive side of the ball. First was at linebacker. J.B. Brown was previously listed behind Taiwan Berryhill, and there wasn't even an oar there. Now there is an oar between J.B. Brown and Taiwan Berryhill, but it's not just that. They've switched order in where they are. Now, if you go through the KU depth chart, you will notice there are oars, and at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't totally matter which one is listed first and which one is listed second if they're an oar, but it kind of does, because you go through the depth chart, and all the guys, with the exception of one of them, which we'll get to later here at the tight end position, all of them where it's the first guy is the guy that actually sort of seems to be ahead of the second guy. Like at the running back position, it's Daniel Highshaw or Dylan McDuffie or Torrey Loughlin or Savion Morrison. I forget the order of them all, but Daniel Highshaw is the first of those oars. Okay, that makes sense. At kicker, it's like Seth Keller is listed as an oar, but he's the first guy listed there. Last week when it was Jalon Daniels or Jason Mean, Jalon Daniels was the top guy listed there. Tommy Dunn and DJ Withers. Dunn's been getting the official start. They're both an oar, but he's ahead of DJ Withers there. Like Austin Booker or Patrick Joyner. Booker's on top, even though, they are both kind of splitting snaps. Booker has been a little bit higher seemingly on the depth chart. So realistically, the guy who is higher up on the depth chart, or is a little bit higher has been maybe getting slightly more playing time in certain regard, even if they are listed as an or. And it's not just that JB Brown is now an or with Tywone Berryhill, which keep in mind, some of that is injury related for Tywone Berryhill, but I think also part of it is JB Brown related. He's looked really good. I thought he played really well against Illinois. I thought he played well in the FCS game. Pro Football Focus grades didn't love him, liked him a lot better in week 2, but you're lining him up all over the field. Really impressed with what he's brought to the table, the physicality he brings, and even some of the pass rush stuff that he's doing there. But it's that you didn't just slop on an or to the depth chart. You took the time to change it to make JB Brown the top guy. So I view that as pretty indicative of something. Similar thing at the safety position. Marvin Grant, to begin with, was listed as an or with OJ Burroughs, but Burroughs was the first guy on top of it, and Grant was the second guy. Now it's switched. Now Marvin Grant is the first guy with OJ Burroughs at the second. I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, Marvin Grant I viewed more as like a box safety coming into the year that, maybe it would make more sense to play him with OJ Burroughs, or if you're going to play him, maybe it's a 3 safety look, and maybe it made less sense to play him with Kenny Logan. But Marvin Grant's looked pretty good in coverage so far, and he's improved on his game. We've talked a lot about the film study that he's done and put in extra time to, that now he's better at some of those things that you can play him better next to Kenny Logan and not have to worry about, well, is there enough coverage out here? He's looked really impressive to start out the season. And so it makes sense that he is up there. I'm also still really high on OJ Burroughs, and he'll still obviously be in the game a ton. So it's not to say that, he's just going to take away all the snaps or something from OJ Burroughs. But Marvin Grant now moving ahead there, I think is indicative and kind of a nod to him and ode to him about how well he has played to kind of start out this season. I don't want to finish off with maybe some more of the minor things or things not to put stock in with this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks. First, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now's the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season, or bet on college football too, with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Finishing up Locked On Jayhawks here with some more of the depth chart changes, some of that are maybe a little bit more minor. Logan Brown was previously listed as the backup left tackle for the first 2 weeks. Calvin Clements was listed as the backup right tackle for the first few weeks. They've just swapped sides. Brown is the backup left tackle. Clements is the backup right tackle. That was kind of what I thought might happen. I think Clements is the backup left tackle now. Brown is the backup right tackle now. And those were switched before the season. I think I might have said that backwards. But Clements backup left tackle, Brown backup right tackle now. That's kind of what I thought before the season coming in throughout fall camp, I guess I should say, of what it was going to end up being. And now that's kind of the case here. Also, Kalen Gervin is listed as a starter over Kobe Bryant. Now, that's obviously doesn't have to do with, something Kobe's done. It's the targeting call. It's that Kobe will start, I'd imagine, in the second half and moving forward. But Kalen Gervin will get the start in the first half because Kobe Bryant will miss some time, will miss that first half with the targeting call happening against the Illinois game. But it does show, Quentin Lassiter's played well. He had the back-to-back weeks with interceptions. Only played like a handful of snaps last week and didn't play like a ton of snaps the week before, but impressed in both of them. Would he possibly get the start over Kobe Bryant for the first half? No, they're still going with Kalen Gervin, the experienced guy, and he gets the nod right there. Things not to put stock in at all. There's still an or at punter and kicker. We've only seen one punt from Damon Greaves so far. That's a great thing for Kansas. You'd love that number to stay that low and continue to be that low per rate of the games coming up. But he's the starting punter. And as far as the kicking stuff goes, like Seth Keller is the starting kicker till proven otherwise. 4 for 4 on field goals so far, 9 for 9 on PATs. The only other one, there's still an or with Trevor Cardell and Jared Casey, which I found kind of interesting. And this is the one exception I was talking about. Cardell is actually slightly ahead of Casey. I think what that's more indicative of is, if, let's say, hypothetically, Mason Fairchild was missing time or had an injury or something, if you're playing one of them at the true number top tight end guy, I think it would be Cardell in over Casey in that role, because the way they use Casey is more of an H-back role and as a second tight end to use him in motion and in different ways, that they want him specifically for that role, that even though Jared Casey's the second tight end, if, again, Fairchild were to have an injury, Cardale would leap into Fairchild's spot and Casey would stay in Casey's spot, if that kind of makes sense. So that's still the same, even though Cardale had single-digit snaps last week. So I don't read too much into that. That's going to do it for this bonus episode of Locked On Jayhawks, though. We'll have another episode coming up tomorrow that is going to be talking about why Kansas should be ranked in the top 25. We're also going to get on to our KU basketball early preview of the center position later this week. We'll have our KU Nevada preview later this week as well. All that coming up with Locked On Jayhawks. You can find the show wherever you get any of your podcasts. You can find us on our YouTube page. Like and subscribe to the show. We'll see you next time.